Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Joined today by my good friend. He's the host and publisher of the Spartan Pride podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. Joins me each and every week. Talk about the Raiders, talk about the NFL, the great Johnny Shop, or as you guys like to call him in your YouTube comments, Johnny Guitars.
I am ready. The guitars are ready. I am pumped for week 2. Give me more. Who didn't love what happened in week 1? I told you it'd be a huge Raider blowout. Huge Raider blowout. Fun week all around. Let's go around the NFL. There's plenty to discuss.
All right, let's talk about the big win. This was not the Raiders team of old. When you're in the press box, as you know, you've been there many times and on the field with me. It's not what people see at home. And when Jimmy threw that interception in the end zone, he was pressing. He was trying to do too much. They had had penalties. It had not been pretty, but still they marched down the field. And this was one of those games where you'd see the Raiders in the past, oh my God, I think we're going to lose it. And they all came off mad, like, all right, get us back on the field. The defense was cheering, and they were yelling at them. We got you. We're getting you the ball back. Let's go. Let's go. And it's just a whole different feel. The players have talked about it all week. I mean, going into the Bills and losing a football game is not the end of the world in the least bit. That's a good team. A lot of people think of being a Super Bowl, but this is a different Raider team. I think if anyone was impartial and not a fan, just watching, I think you could tell. What about from your vantage point?
From my vantage point, this game was remarkably close. Looking at the stats again, it's almost shockingly close. They both have 22 first downs, 11 of them both passing, 5 both rushing. You go up and down the stats, the Raiders have one more total yard. Shocker. I think the big takeaway from this is what it looks like. The Raiders won a super close game. And we all know if you win close games, those things tend to build momentum. So while the game was a lot closer than some of us thought it would be, there were blowouts in week 1, just not here. It sets the Raiders up pretty well. Now, they've got a humongously difficult task this week. Anyone that plays Buffalo has a difficult task at Buffalo, and you put on top of it the crazy way they ended up losing on Monday night in front of everybody during a game that will be honestly probably remembered for the rest of time. You think the Raiders are going into a tough spot. They are. I think you can acknowledge
Damar
that.
Hamlin.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much emotion that's going to be built up here in Buffalo, even just from Hamlin himself. This is going to be a unique setting, and it's almost a good thing that they're going to get to it, I think, in very early in the season, because it is unsettling. You're in West Virginia this week. They're obviously there because of the whole situation of going across the country. It's disjointed, but there's a whole lot to take from last week. I think the way that they won is difficult, no doubt, but it actually is probably more valuable than if they won without being tested. They've already been tested to the max, and of course, we'll see the Broncos again later this year.
I agree. All right, let's get into some other stuff because we've got a lot of things we like to talk about Raiders and the NFL in general. I hate the Peacock network, but I get it. I understand it. I don't have a problem with Amazon because most people have it. I go back to when the Big Ten Network started. You may remember Tom Izzo, my friend, the Hall of Fame coach of the Michigan State Spartans, got in trouble for ripping on the Big Ten, people having to pay to not watch their Spartans. But Amazon, I like it because they're very forward thinking. Bezos wants to own a team, so he was willing to overpay it, made the NFL pockets flush with cash. But the lag time between watching on a streaming service and real time where you're watching people, I get people every week that'll say, "How do you got to slow down in your tweeting because you're telling us stuff before it happens." I know they're trying to cut down the lag time between streaming, and you think they should get rid of the 7-second delay. Your thoughts, John?
This is a big problem. We see it every week. You especially see it if you are on Twitter. So you've got the broadcast of whatever game you're watching. Then you've got the 7-second delay, which we'll get to in a second. Then you've got a varying delay based on whether you're watching on cable, whether you're watching on an HD antenna, not many folks, but a fantastic signal, whether you're watching on, Whether you're watching on streaming and which streaming you're offering, or are you watching on a dish like some of us? This is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in the day and age where the fans in almost half the states are gambling by phone, sometimes on each play or on a set of plays. Makes a huge difference because these lines move in real time. You got to address it. So this is a big problem. Amazon says they've made a big jump. We're going to see it as we go this year. We'll see them on Thursdays, Black Friday. We'll know before then if this is going to work. And YouTube TV had like a 20-some second lag or latency. They've smushed that down supposedly as well. But this is a big problem. And there isn't a great simple solution to it as far as I understand. You're in better shape, I think, if you're hardwired rather than streaming Wi-Fi, but a lot of folks are not. And I think that hopefully this will bring into focus something that needs to be rolled up and thrown in the trash. That 7-second delay. Now, for those that don't know, like Hondo sees every week, it's not so bad. You're in the press box, you watch the play on the field, you look up, you watch the play again, you got immediate instant replay. But why do we have a 7-second delay anymore? People understand what's going on the football field relative to language, content, violence. If you don't like it, you can watch something else. I don't think 7 seconds is necessary for somebody to click a button. Most people out there are clicking a button a whole lot faster than 7 seconds on a daily basis. So maybe we do us all a favor, take that 7-second delay, either throw it in the trash can or shrink it down to 3, and we start shrinking it there. Otherwise,
I'm sorry.
Otherwise, it's gotta somehow be more consistent to please the viewer. So YouTube, Amazon, other streamers, they gotta squeeze this thing down to an acceptable time frame, ideally within a second of each other. So Johnny Gambler in Nevada isn't getting totally advantaged over Jimbo in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who's right on the Comcast thing. There's too much variance in the lag.
Yeah. Most people at home don't know this. We go over our topics a little bit, or there's emailing about topics during the middle of the week. And when we're done taping, I'm going to tell you who I talked to from the NFL. But I asked somebody about the NFL because, John, until you had suggested as a topic, I hadn't thought about it because I'm in the stadium. So for me, it's not an issue. And he told me, again, and I'll tell you who it is later, but that they believe 100% there are people who represent gambling organizations at every game, because if you get a 20-second delay, somebody can boom go put 50 grand down on what's going to happen on the next play because there's so many prop bets, that they said it was a huge issue. In fact, the guy said, I'm surprised you guys are talking about it. Not a lot of people are. He goes, it is a monster issue, not for us as a league, but for the gambling institutions. And the only one more protective of their money than the NFL is the gambling institutions.
Yes, and they are there because they're punching those buttons without the 7-second delay. That's how they even beat the delay. There are thousands and thousands of dollars moving in some of these lines. Nobody gambles more on anything than the NFL, as we all know. So it's in everybody's best interest to get it right. I think it's also in everybody's best interest to take that ridiculous Janet Jackson 7-second delay and throw it in the trash. No es necesario anymore. Por favor, please get rid of the 7 seconds.
The Janet Jackson delay. All right, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if you love Aaron, hate Aaron, if you're a Packer fan, not a Packer fan. Nobody wanted to see what they saw. It wasn't good for the NFL. Certainly wish him a good recovery. I've talked to several people, as you know. I know a lot of people that have played with him, coached for him, or coached him, been in management. Everyone I talked to said he's coming back. Now, everyone also said well, that's not true. A couple had talked to him, but most had said we haven't talked to him. We just know him, and they think he's coming back. He's not married, doesn't have kids, and he does not want it to end this way. So I'm basing this not on talking to Aaron, but talking to people who have or know him, or they all tell me he's coming back. He's 40 years old. Now, let me tell you, I'm 52. And at 52, I don't move like I moved at 40. And at 40, I didn't move like I moved at 30. And at 30, I didn't move like I moved at 25. 25, I moved like I always moved. But I'm just saying this is going to be a long. I talked to a doctor today, and he told me he thinks it's easier to come back because Aaron is a top flight athlete who isn't a humongous lineman who carries a lot of extra weight. But he said, even with that, he's already a world class athlete. He's already in great shape, but he's not a lineman carrying an extra 100 pounds. He said, but at his age alone, it just makes it more difficult. Do you think he's going to do it? And how big of a story would that be for 2024?
I think he's going to give it a shot for a couple reasons. Number one, the nature of the injury is such that it will heal. It's a tedious recovery, and only once, and it's ongoing still. Do we really know of an athlete that had an Achilles repair go wrong? That's Mike Soroka, the pitcher for the Braves that hasn't pitched in years. Part of the reason is he tore his Achilles in rehab. About 9 months later, it tore again, so they had to do it a second time, and he's been injured with other stuff since. So the likelihood that the repair goes bad is low. The ability to come back from it, it's not anything like recovering from a knee or recovering from maybe some of the shoulder injuries that, quite frankly, a lot of quarterbacks don't recover from. So I'm for sure he's going to give it a shot. Yeah, the issue that he's got there is it is a 40-year-old body because his birthday is in December. He'll be 40 in December, and his body will have to recover from there. So it's just not going to recover at the same speed necessarily. And you feel for him because there's only so many great years of your physical prime that you have left when you're 39. And this is going to be so frustrating for this arm, this football mind, and these football legs. They can't do anything this year. So while I believe he will come back, I wonder what Aaron Rodgers will actually make it back. Dan Marino is a good comparison only because we saw that happen and he never really was quite the same. Rodgers relies on his feet and movement more. I think he also relies on his mind, body, and football spirit being in line. And if for some reason his body isn't moving at the same speed and time that his mind thinks it is, he's going to have to adapt and evolve. So I do think he's going to come back. I think it's a big story for next year because he's in New York. I don't think it's a humongous story unless he comes back and can play really well like we've seen. But no, nobody wants to see that. I didn't see it in real time. Eventually you could see the replays and see that bad sign. Last time we saw major Achilles, Mo Ibrahim at Minnesota, you could see that plain as day when it happened because of the angle his leg was at. It's a bad scene, a bad situation. I think the odds are against him, but for sure the guy's going to take a shot at it. And you just hate to see a year of skill deterioration. That's really the bummer of it.
Yeah, I asked the doctor, I said, what do you put as percentages that he can come back and be who he was? He said, every year after about 35, he goes, even without an injury, you decrease. He goes, so I think it's 100% if he's willing to do the rehab that he can get to where he would be with a normal decretion, or that's not even a word, but a normal decrease. He said, I think it's 100% he can get back there. He goes, but but somebody in his case with all the money, he goes, he's going to ask himself lots of times through the process, is this really worth it? Now, I reached out to an athlete that you and I both know. I'll tell you off air who it is, who suffered a major Achilles injury that you and I watched. I was in person. You watched on television. And I asked him about it. He's a major athlete. And this is what he told me. I want to read his comments to you. He said, the hardest part about rehab is you think you get injured, have surgery. Okay, I'm back. That's not what it is. With the Achilles, it was unlike any other injury I had. It was literally goalposts. At month 1, I want to be using a cart, which is where you put your leg up on a cart. At end of month 3, I want to be using crutches. End of month 5, 4, a walker, then walking, then lightly running, then beginning to lift. He said there are so many different milestones along the way that this was by far the hardest injury to recover from. I thought that was very interesting how he described the process.
Well, it really is, and who he's talking about is a lot closer to 20 than 40 when this happened.
Hey, you know who I'm
One of
talking
the
about, don't you?
Absolutely. One of the weird things about this, and also about like knees, is as people get larger, the Achilles doesn't necessarily. So Rogers' Achilles very comparable to pretty much any other 40-year-old of his size. That's the
Mhm.
concern. Recovering from Achilles for people walking on the street, usually 6 months to 18 months, and you see him in the different stages. Like you said, you see him in a boot, you see him in a cart, etc. Aaron Rodgers is going to try to get back without any question by the 20th or 30th, maybe let's say August 20th next year. I hope that it's not that easy. There's some internal, like what part of it tore that probably matters that we won't know until the surgery's done. And after that, we probably won't know. So that could be a huge difference with the guy that you're talking about too, relative to how it tore. But it's not really funny to say it's not going to be a walk in the park, but you think, well, it's just down there. It's just an Achilles. It's not like a knee that blew up or anything, but it's not that simple. And any speed loss in Aaron Rodgers or agility loss it's not going to work at the NFL level. People just pound him.
The doctor I talked to, John, I asked him, was this him not strengthening it? He told me the Achilles is one of the only tendons, whatever. There isn't really an exercise you can do to make it stronger. It just is what it is. I thought that was fascinating. All right, we got to hurry. Let's go along. Tottenham. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but the NFL is booking games extensively through 29. Let's talk about it.
Why? Why do you need an official site for Euro football? You're going to expand to Euro football? Okay. Where are you going to find 12 quarterbacks? Where are you going to find 32 offensive linemen? Where are you going to find 30 or so cornerbacks? This is a super long-term idea that there's going to be an NFL division in Europe. It's a waste of time. 20 plus years down the road at least. But why does this even on the radar? This is who wants to expand this? If there are enough dollars, and I understand from the Jacksonville owner that there's a lot of them, I understand it. But the idea that there's out of 32 owners, more than 3 that think this is a great idea would blow my mind. I would not be happy as a season ticket holder for those teams having a game in Tottenham. It's bananas to me.
Is that how you say it? Is Tottenham?
I think so. Tottenham. I don't know. There's a famous football club over there. They got 2 names. Right. I don't know.
All right. So let me tell you this. So when I got this thing for us, I talked to a couple of people, and I was told that the NFL absolutely wants to eventually have a team in Europe. And they said maybe it's doing a minor league system where the team that wins it then becomes an NFL franchise, kind of like how they do European soccer. I'm not a soccer guy. I have no idea what he's talking about. But evidently, if you're a good soccer team and you win in a lower division, you get to move up. So if we're talking college football, if you win the MAC, maybe you get to go be in the Big Ten, and then they take the worst Big Ten team, put them in the MAC. I don't know if that's accurate. I'm not a soccer guy, whatever. But that's what he said he could see them doing, is starting a league and then the league champion getting to be the NFL franchise the next year down the road. But he told me, and this person would know, and I'll tell you off air who it is, that absolutely the NFL wants a team in Europe. So I texted some NFL Player Association reps. All right. And here was the question. I sent this to 6 NFL Player Association reps. Here was my question. A lot of interest in the NFL of having a franchise in Europe. What do you think as an NFLPA player, how you would feel today? Okay. And again, I always tell you when I tell you, I'll tell you who they are. Okay. This is what one of players rep said to me. Hell effing no. Right now, players are already picking teams in Texas, Florida, and Nevada because they don't have state income tax. Are you kidding me? Who wants to play in Europe with a tax rate as high as that is, no way, wouldn't do it. Maybe if they gave us exemptions or they had larger payrolls to cover the taxes, I don't see this happening. NFL wish list. Okay, here's another player. It's already bad enough when you have to pay the jock taxes in Florida and other places. No way. Here's another one. I have a good buddy from high school that plays in Major League Baseball. No one wants to play in Canada for this reason. Who wants to go to Europe where it's even worse? Boo. Now, a couple other guys, they all responded to me. A couple of them I didn't read them because it's basically all the same thing. This is clearly a case where I don't think the players are on board. Maybe going over there for one vacation game, but not. And I don't understand the whole soccer thing. Do you?
I do, but you need a lot of teams to do that, and I understand that because I just watched a Wrexham episode, which some folks will know what that is, where they kind of explain that. You need a lot of players for that. That's my point. Where are all these guys going to come from? You going to get them in Europe and just put them in a pro sport? No, this is bananas. I don't really care that they have a home base for their operations. That's fine. I don't know what these games are doing there anyway. I mean, I just don't get it. And it's obviously, if you're the Raiders, you don't ever want to go over there. It's way too far. You'd rather play a game in Hawaii, for God's sake. I don't get it. I just hope it kind of fizzles out. It's just bananas.
All right. Last thing I want to talk to is last year in the NFL, there were 3,416 passes of 15 yards or more. That was in 22. That is the lowest since 06. We know we saw Miami with the vertical game, but is the NFL evolving to a short West Coast style and getting away from the deep ball? Now we're talking about passes that are in the air over that amount of time. Is the NFL getting away from that Al Davis 70-yard bomb attack? Because the stats would say it's moving away from it.
Yeah, I think it is right now. And my guess is a combination of rules and players makes it so. The best example is the easy one, Tyreek Hill. You get him the ball 5 yards and zigzag, he can go. He's that fast. So part of me thinks this is just a seasonal change and not necessarily the end of the world. The other part of me thinks, are there anything external factors that are maybe creating this more possibly to happen? Well, maybe it starts from the bottom with we're seeing spread all the way down in high school and below. That's probably part of it. Maybe there's a rule or two that could be changed or adapted to maybe help people and encourage them to run the ball, to have some more balance. That may be part of it too. We all like the long bomb. Some of us grew up on the long bomb. I'd like to see the long bomb come back, but I'm not terribly concerned with it. At this time, I'm not terribly concerned, but this is what's going on right now, and it's definitely worth paying attention to. That's why we go around the NFL like this.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, John.
Are we going to pick the 4?
Here we go.
The feature 4?
Sunday. Oh, yeah. Okay, give me your 4 games. Let's talk about our 4 games.
Featured foursome, the 4 most interesting games of the week, not including the Raiders, because most people, everybody watching this, that's number 1. We give you that one. How about this? Baltimore at Cincinnati. Little backup against the wall for the Bengals.
Man, I'm gonna take the Bengals here. I think I love Baltimore. I love Lamar. He's got the weapons. I just can't picture the Bengals losing this game. It just I just can't. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
Some reason I picture this being a horrible year for Cincinnati. I think watch out. Very interesting. Also interesting, Chargers at Titans. It's interesting because both of those teams think they're going to the playoffs, and somebody is leaving Sunday with the 2-loss big problem.
I'm riding with the Titans. They're at home and home field. Listen, over my years, and I've done this for decades, talking to coaches, you just can't underestimate the value of being the home team. And here come the Chargers, 3-hour time difference from home. I'm riding with the Titans and their ability to just ride Derrick Henry.
I'm with you there. Kansas City at Jacksonville is interesting because here is Trevor Lawrence. Here come the Chiefs after what happened in week 1. It's not possible the Chiefs could go 0-2, is it?
Nope. This is going to be the Chiefs' day, brother. They're going to eat.
They got two guys coming back that are somewhat significant. I think, though, an interesting game, especially for the future, because that guy in Jacksonville, they're building something. Lastly,
I agree with you. Listen, I love Trevor Lawrence. I love Jacksonville. I'm going to give this one to KC, and I think both guys will be back. I think Kelsey will be back and Jones.
And the last one I think is very interesting because you got the Lions off of a little bit of a bye and a whole lot of momentum. So they'll be a little extra fresh. You got Seattle going in there, down at least one offensive tackle, possibly two, and staring at 0-2. Look out for that one. Everybody and their dog thinks the Lions are just going to roll, baby. I think they may be right this time.
Yeah, one pride. Lions win this one.
Four most interesting games of the week, the featured foursome.
All right. So now, John, your pick, Bills, Raiders. I predicted yesterday 24-23 Bills. I predicted a loss here. There is no reason to panic with a loss here. I think a lot of teams would have come in here and gotten a loss. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's probably going to be more difficult to score, but I'm going to jump into that same crafty NFL window that we see so often. I think it's going to be 28-20 Bills. I think the Raiders get stuck a little bit down in the red zone a couple times. I think there's just a little too much emotion and a little too much evening out that has to happen for the Bills after they honestly gave that one away on Monday night.
He's the one and only, the living legend, the great Johnny Shop. Remember, you can catch out his Spartan Pride podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network as well. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Johnny.